So this week I got to do something pretty fun, and I got to go visit a bunch of my friends. They have a studio called JTL Group, and it's awesome. We're gonna talk more about that in next week's video because it's like 8 studios in one building, bunch of different rooms. They're all producers, artists, and all that stuff. Anyway, my friend Jared Logan, who leased the building like 10 years ago and has just been building this amazing community, did something crazy recently, and I thought I'd share it with you. And because he bought a console, and not just like, you know, just bought a console or like a new console or something. He bought an old SSL, the 4000, I believe it's the G+, and he bought a 64 channel console. So I had to ask him why, because one, I want one, or maybe I don't want one. I actually don't know. I've been telling myself that I don't want a console because it's so insane. Like, they're so expensive. How do you do it? Who do you go to? There's just so many like mysteries to me about buying a console. Let me know down in the comments, would you buy a console if you could? What would you get? What would you use it for? And then after the end of the video, maybe leave another comment or reply to your comment and see if you've changed your mind. Also, this month on this channel is gonna be a big drum month. I know I've said it before, it's the summer of drums, but it's happening. So stay tuned, make sure you're subscribed, like this video, all that stuff, so you get the recommendations. That's how it works, by the way. You subscribe, you like, you get more of these videos in your feed when you go to youtube.com. You'll see when my first product comes out, which I'm very proud of, been working on for a while now. I'm gonna make some videos going into that when it comes out, so I'm very excited about that. And since we're gonna be talking a lot about drums, I wanna thank Sweetwater for sponsoring this video and give a shout out to a couple new things I got for my drums, which are Gibraltar, both drum thrones and hardware. Now, I've played drums forever, so I have a chaotic mix of hardware that has just been hanging on for dear life, and I thought, I'm 31, maybe let's upgrade some of these stands that are barely hanging on. So I got a couple new boom cymbal stands that are great, and I got 2 beautiful drum thrones. So if you want to check out the throne and the stands that I got, I put a link to them right in the description. Thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video. And let's go talk to Jared about this console. All right, so we did a studio tour.
Yeah.
In this room and the place 1 year ago.
Yeah.
What's changed in the last year for you?
I got 1 year older.
Yeah.
That changed.
That's good.
But yeah, the big thing here is what you're sitting next to right now. So I bought a console.
Why?
I wanted to ruin my life, man. Of course. I had to shake it up. Man, why? I mean, that's probably part of it. Shoot, like, I've always loved working on desks. So I would just go to Blackbird or whatever, like Henson or something, and just be like, one of these days I'm gonna get one of these. I just love the old ones too, man. Like, I know there's all these new ones, but I just love the old ones. I love the sound. And I think it's interesting too that like a lot of these companies are going back and making basically the old ones again, but adding maybe some like modern features, because like the old ones just sound the best. So I've just personally always been in love with the SSL. Now I will say, in a perfect world, I'll take a Neva API and an SSL.
Yeah.
For sure. I have API pre, so that'll have to do. I've got some Neve pre, so that'll have to do, or some Neve copies for mixing and stuff. I just always love an SSL. So I just had to go for it, man. So I bought a 4000 EG with 48 mono mic lines and 8 stereo lines.
So how do you buy a console? Like how do you go about, especially an old one?
Yeah, I've been like following and chatting with Duncan Rowe at Sphere. It used to be Primal Gear back in the day, but at Sphere for like forever. I figured one of these days I'll scoop one up. When SSL dropped the Origin desk, I was like really considering that, but they didn't have dynamics on every channel, and I wanted dynamics on every channel. I just was like, I don't know. And then there was like some pretty good deals on like AWSs that were popping up and stuff too. I would get emails every so often, and the prices were like landing more in where I was like, okay, like, yeah, I'm gonna grab one of these. And so actually there was like a J that popped up that I got really close to buying. There was another company, AES Pro Audio, out in England, that like rebuilds desks, and they'll like cut them to whatever size you want and all this. So I almost got a smaller one. And then my friend Brian was like, you'll never wish you had, or you'll never feel like you have too many channels, but you'll definitely feel like you don't have enough channels. So I was like, okay. And Braxton too out there, like if he can hear me right now, he's laughing because he was like, you know, you could have more channels. So anyway, so it's 10 feet long, which is like insane. And I didn't even know if it would fit in my room, but it did. And I redid the whole front wall and got rid of the angles like in the corners and stuff so I could like fit it in. And then it was like not enough to just like buy a console. Everybody's like, dude, if like you're gonna like change that much in your room, like now's your chance to like redo your room if you wanted to redo your room. And I've been in my room for 10 years and hadn't done like any like major stuff, just like a couple pieces of treatment here or there, like got new racks or a rug or something. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna tear my whole room apart. So yeah, that's fun. And that like never goes to plan, right? Like ever.
Oh man.
So yeah, so I tore my whole room apart. We put a new floor in, painted it, redid all the treatment, rewiring all the stuff, and custom ordering all the snakes and all that stuff. So we're almost there. I got the shipment email today that the rest of the snakes are coming, so I can put this whole thing together and get to work.
What's the like ordering process of getting a console, especially an older console?
I think it depends on like the manner of the like condition of the desk or whatever, because sometimes it's literally just taking it, decommissioning it out of one spot and moving it right here. Like the J would have been like in service up until it would have come here. So it would have literally like, they would have taken it out of their studio, packed it up in a truck and then dropped it off here. There was no like in between anything. With this one, it got taken from a studio, brought to Nashville. They went through a bunch of stuff. It took a super long time. And then I custom order a power supply, a 3-rack U that goes into a regular outlet. It's got standby on it. It's like super quiet. You can just leave it in the control room. It's got one small fan on it. It cuts down like the energy usage by like some significant amount. And you could, technically they said they have tons of clients that just turn it on and off every single day, which is crazy because you never could really do that with those old ones.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have like an HVAC unit like pouring air conditioning on it all day long.
Super
and all
loud.
this. And those were some of the things that stopped me over the years from like going console. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to figure out power and do all this stuff, and I don't have a machine room here and like all that. And so that's part of what would make me lean to like the modern desk. All the modern desks are like that, you know, just like a very reasonably sized power supply that just like plugs in a regular outlet. But that's what I have now, so super excited. And they said like they're seeing like increased headroom and all that stuff as well. So, but yeah, I felt like, dude, you gotta shake it up, man. Like I've been making records for a long time, and like I try to find places to like make myself uncomfortable and like take risks. And I've done that with different things throughout the years, but this one is like kind of freaky. And it felt a little bit like freaky in the sense that it's like a chunk of change. It's scary in the sense that it's like old tech. So I'm like, and we're in Kansas City.
Yeah.
We're not like in Nashville or LA. It's like, oh, call so-and-so and have them stop by. Like that's not the case. But then it also is like super exciting because sonically it's like tone for days. I like the adventure of just like figuring things out. I'm really excited because I've worked on them before, but I've never just like lived with one that's mine. To just like be able to like route stuff and mess with like all the options of things, like creatively speaking. Like I've always loved like Chris Lordology's says like, I play the last instrument on the record. Like I play the console.
Yeah.
I just always thought that was like a really cool philosophy. So I'm like excited to take it to that level of just being able to like play, just like have fun and like just try weird stuff and see what works and see what doesn't work and all that. So
you're working like hybrid.
Yeah, I've worked hybrid for like basically pretty much my whole career. There was like a small stint where I was like totally on my own and I just didn't have a lot of gear, and so I couldn't. But as soon as I could, I bought a Sound Workshop Logix 8. It's a little 12-channel console. It's when API disbanded for a while. The 5 of the guys went and started Sound Workshop, and so it's like a poor man's API. So I bought that, and I started mixing through that, and I can still remember the day. I cannot remember the name of the band, but I remember my friends that were in it. We had been doing mix downs or whatever, like where I was doing them like in the box, you know, like Pro Tools, like bounces or whatever. I like ran the mix like through the console and like onto a Tascam like CD player, you know, to like print it, and gave them the CD, and they like went in their car and they called me like 5 minutes later. They were like, this is the best like rough mix or whatever we've ever gotten from you and all that. I was like, all right, so like I knew it. I already knew it was gonna be better, but like immediately like all my clients liked it more, and I was like, there it is. And I just loved how I could like push into all that stuff more and like distort and but it doesn't sound like distortion, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, like it does, but it doesn't. And it just sounds good. You're just like, why does that sound good? And it's like, you're probably like technically kind of doing it wrong, but like that works, you know? So I've just loved that. So like I've gone from consoles, like little small format consoles, to Dangerous 2 bus, Shadow Hills, Equinox. That's what I had last. And that to me, because that one was 30 channels and it had transformers in it and all that. And the way that I started kind of getting everything, like where I was routing the drums to this, I had like some louder than liftoff Mr. Focuses with SSL cards in them. And then I bought like 2 of those, and then I bought 2 more. And then I was using some DIY RE stuff with like transformers, and I just had like some UTC transformers wired up that I was sending stuff through and touching different pieces of gear for like whatever reason. Like sometimes it wasn't even for the compression, maybe it was just what the compressor, like the circuitry that the compressor had, like whatever. I just started loving it more and more and more. So I either got to go buy like 30 of these louder than liftoffs, you know what I mean, like these Mr. Focuses, which I actually priced out and like considered, or I just need to buy a desk, because at the end of the day, that's all I'm really chasing, is like that thing, which I will say mad shout out to them. I shouted them out in the last thing with the silver bullet, but I didn't talk about the Mr. Focuses. Those things are nuts, and they literally were kind of that last thing that I was like, man, I just need to go buy a SSL. Like, it is what it is, and then I can get all the benefits of EQ on every channel, dynamics on every channel, aux sends, the routing matrix, like all those kind of things. So the hybrid thing for me has just always been it. Almost everybody here is now hybrid in like in some way. And most of them came in like super simple, like whatever. And I'd be like, you should try this. You should try these pre's. You should, like try a little summing box or whatever. But then like a bunch of them, like as they would do it, they're just like, oh, this is crazy. Like you just get like the sonic benefits, and everybody has the same stable things. Oh, it feels warmer, or it feels wider, or whatever. I just like it because I feel like it allows me almost to mess up, and it's probably gonna actually sound good, rather than like sometimes in the digital, it just doesn't sound as good. When you make a mistake, it just doesn't sound as good. In the analog, you might be making a mistake and not even necessarily know you're making a mistake because it sounds good, but technically it's wrong.
Yeah.
Does that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the rules are, you can almost think about them differently. Like if you're just in a DAW versus like you're on a desk.
Like, are you pegging the meters? Yes.
It's like sometimes you don't. Who cares? Whatever. I'm using my ears, not my eyes.
For sure. Like when I had a dangerous 2 bus, I like figured out this thing with like 808s, where I was like, I had this sample that I loved, this like sample library that I loved. I would usually have 0 plugins. It was like the raw sample library, and I would go mono in to the 2 bus and do the +6 and just like throw it in there pretty hard. And I don't know how many people would be like, what do you do to your 808s? What do you do to your 808s? And it'd be like nothing, literally like nothing technically. Yeah. Except just like push it into this thing. I actually had to like refigure that out when I switched to the Shadow Hills, because the Shadow Hills sounded really good, but it didn't do it the same way. Yeah. And so like I had to like refigure that out. But like I started using my Stam Child, the like Stam Fairchild on the mix bus recently. And so I'm still using the like bus compressor, the SSL bus compressor, but then putting the like Stam Child like way at the end. Not compressing too much, but just like hitting, it's got whatever, 16 tubes and a bunch of transformers, like just mostly like hitting that with like a little bit of compression and letting it like crunch a little bit. So sick.
So how are you setting up your SSL with 2 X16s?
I mean, honestly, I'm still figuring that out a little bit, because I might be buying more X16s, but as of right now, I'll use all of it on all 32 or all 30. Right now, it'll have to be 30 for mix down, because 2 will be mix return. So use 30 outs and then have it all set up to the patch base, so that if I'm doing headphones, if I want to do it internally with Pro Tools, then I can just steal outputs to patch that. Otherwise, I can just use Q-Sends on the console for headphones. So I'll have both options there, and then I'll have up to 32 inputs for tracking.
So if you just threw another X16, that's 48 I/O. Yeah. And then you can have 32 whatever, and then have the additional.
And that's probably like the long play. Yeah. But since I'm over here just bleeding money, I'm like, let me get it going first. But also I want to get it going because I just want to get a feel for like, what am I really doing? Yeah. Because you can be like, oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do it, like all these things, and it like can just like get out of control. And I'm very like much more slow and steady wins the race, which probably sounds crazy to some people because I'm sitting here talking about buying an SSL, but I've also been making records for a long time and just like saved up and just waited and found something that I wanted and jumped on it when it came. But I don't want to put stuff, like I don't want to like charge a bunch of stuff and all that. So I'm like, I'll just wait, see how it's working, and then like fine tune. And like with some of this gear, like I might go, man, I'm just really not using that anymore. And then just be willing to let it go. I've set it like in my heart that, and there's already a few pieces that I've taken out of my rack, but like anything that I could go buy tomorrow, like I'm willing to let that go. Anything that might be like extremely difficult to go buy tomorrow, like the API 512Bs, those are just the older ones. Those are my favorite. I just like them more than the Cs. It just is what it is. I don't really want to sell those because they're really hard to come by. And sometimes people put them on Reverb for the most insane amount of money. It doesn't make any sense at all. And I'm not paying for that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll hold on to those. But like say the Vintex or something like that.
Yeah.
I really like those Vintex, but like I could buy Vintex tomorrow. So the desk was $40K, 48 channels, 8 stereo line channels.
And it's the full,
Bus
that's the full
compressor,
desk, the whole build,
whole
everything?
thing, yeah.
Gone through?
And then gone through. And then I bought the power supply separate because it came with the OG power supplies. With the conversion rate right now, it might be a little bit different because it's in England, so it's in pounds. But it was like 4,900 US.
Okay, so for context
Yes.
here, I just went through all of the gear that's in my desk.
Yeah.
And I don't have a console.
Yeah.
And I don't have 48 channels with an extra 8 stereos, right?
Yeah.
Or G-Bus compressor, or
Yeah.
anything that comes with the console. My setup is at like 45K.
Wow. Okay. That's what's always blown my
Compression.
mind about consoles, for real, since way back. That's why I bought the Logix 8. I had a Tac Scorpion for a while. Like, that's what always blew my mind was bang for your buck. Like, when I bought the Logix 8, it was under 1,200 and it had 12 channels.
Yeah.
And it was, so I'm getting 12 channels, 12 preamps, 12 EQs, master section, all that. It was like $1,000 or whatever that, no, sorry, $100 a channel.
Yeah.
Like $100 a channel. And at the time, like you couldn't go buy like an API copy for $100 a channel. Now some of them are way more, right? Like if you go SSL duality, you're dropping way more. If you go 9,000K, you're dropping way more. J's have dropped way in price, like a lot in price. They're like, they're a little bit more than like the EGs, but like it also depends on which one and all that kind of stuff and like the condition and all that. But like even with like a 1608, like a new 1608, like you're looking at like 40, what are those? Like loaded with EQs, I think those are like 45, 46. That's for 16 channels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like the Origin is 32 channels. It's brand new. So like, don't get me wrong. I understand they're brand new, but you're looking at 50 or no, 60 we were just talking, right? Because they raised the price to 60. So 60 for 32 channels, no dynamics. So that's one of the things that's always intrigued me about consoles too, is like bang for your buck on like an old console is kind of insane. Especially when you
Dynamics.
sell for whatever it is, like 5 cents on the dollar or whatever.
What's
what they were
one
brand new.
channel of the 500 SSL like EQ or
The
dynamics?
EQs are like $800.
Okay,
right?
so
$800 or $900
yes.
bucks brand new.
And that's
yeah.
so that's without the pre, without the dynamics,
Yeah, for sure.
without the
The compressors are the same. I think they're used. They're like $750.
Theoretically, one could just do away with all the outboard pre's and stuff and just trade it, and now you have 48
sure.
channels. I mean, like, hey, I didn't lose preamps. I have more preamps now, actually.
For sure. I actually, I have an insane amount of pre's. And like the older SSLs aren't known for their pre's being like
Right.
super cool, but they're not bad.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
mean,
point.
you
I
could
mean, it's
do
like-
if you, especially if you're going through the console and the chains and everything.
Yeah,
you
for
can
sure.
EQ that. You can make
Yeah.
it fun.
Yeah.
That's an incredible price, especially like, I don't know, is shipping included in that?
Shipping was included in that.
And them
So that's
going through
freight.
maintenance and they.
And the shipping was crazy because the company's truck that they had with like a big dock on the back, like a big
Yeah.
elevator or whatever, the lift, it broke the day before they were supposed to deliver it. And so they drove another truck down from like their headquarters in Omaha or something like that. They drove a second truck down. They pulled up 2 trucks in our like in the street right over here. They pulled up 2 trucks, backed them up next to each other, put the
Transferred
lifts
it.
together with like a big metal plate over it. Had to roll the console out halfway onto each one and then simultaneously like bring the lifts down, and they nailed it. But the owner of the company like drove down himself to like see it
Yeah.
through and make it happen, which was awesome.
Man,
I super appreciated that.
what's the name of the company again?
That I bought the desk from?
Sphere something?
That was Sphere, Sphere recording consoles.
Sphere.
Or Sphere consoles, yeah.
Oh,
It's Duncan
interesting.
Rowe in Nashville.
Okay.
So he bought the Sphere name and is doing those consoles, and he does those pre's, the Fab 500 pre's,
Okay.
and all that stuff. Yeah.
And then he's also just fixing up other consoles.
And then they're just like selling desks. Like I worked in Blackbird Studio E a bunch,
I think he had all of them.
and they had the 1608, but with the extender. So it was 32 channels. Man, I was like, okay, this is a really nice workflow. There's something about all the routing of it all, and it all being like laid out in front of you that just makes sense.
Yep.
It's what all the software is doing.
Yeah.
They're trying to do all that with software, but it's like it just is physically like out in front of you.
Yeah, whereas software, it's kind of like compartmentalized and tucked away and hidden, and
Yeah.
you're just like, you hit the input and you're like, there it is.
Yeah.
But with the console, you're like, it's in here right now, and I press this button, and now it's going through this.
Yeah. And what's crazy about this joint is because it's SSL2, you have the send and return faders. So technically it's 48 times 2 plus the stereo lines. So I don't even know what I'm going to do. I just want to buy like old, cheap like reverbs and stuff.
Yeah.
And just like start playing.
Some rolling stuff.
Yeah. And some like MIDI verbs and like whatever. I'm just like, I'm looking at stuff like crazy. Like just to play around with. Like Adam has some old, some cool old like rolling something like, was it like a SDE
And
3000 or something? Yeah, pedals. Yeah, be fun, man.
For people who are like just getting started, and then they see these videos and they're like, what?
Yeah.
How do these people afford like all this stuff? Like, I think sometimes to those viewers or people who are at home and they just got their first 4-channel or whatever, and they're like, can't even imagine getting to a console or getting to a bunch of rack, just give them some hope. Like it's not like tomorrow.
No,
And
it's not. It's not tomorrow.
immediately.
And I think don't try to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to go down this road, right? Like your story is a little bit different than mine.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different than Zane's. That's a little bit different than Boda's. Like, right? It's like they're all a little bit different. But yeah, at the same time, if we've been talking about this recently, even with like an apprenticeship kicking in and going like, how do we communicate some of these things very, very clearly? Like the thing is if we all sit and tell our stories, we'll find that there's like a good amount of overlaps there.
Yeah.
So for all the differences, we're gonna find these like kind of specific, common denominators and stuff. And so one of those being like just slow and steady, man. Slow and steady wins the race. Like, and there's different ways. Like you can take on an investor and like go build a studio and all that. And I don't think there's like anything wrong with that. But I will say, more often than not, for people that I've seen do that, they get it wrong because they think it's about just building a space and filling it with a bunch of gear, and like hopefully people will be like, that's cool, I want to be there. But at the end of the day, it's like it's about the people in the room. Like people make records. Like I don't say it around here as much anymore because everybody here gets it, but I used to say like all the time, like I don't produce records, I produce people.
Yeah.
Because people make records and people make up the business. And I remember very successful business person tell me years ago, like, your business is people.
Yeah.
And they weren't talking about music, but I was like, but that applies 100% to our industry, because people make the records and people listen to the records and people play on the records and so on and so forth. Like, it's about those people in the room. So like, I would say as much as you're focused on gear and all that, like, first of all, don't buy the hype. Don't buy every new interface that comes out thinking that somehow it's magically going to be that much better. Don't do that. Buy something, stick with it, and learn how to make good music with it. Probably sounds a little bit cliche, but it's very true. As much as you work on technical skills, work on personal development. Look for things completely outside of music for that. Don't just look at music. Listen to people who have been successful in other industries. If you have the ability to get around somebody that knows way more than you and you can just listen, please do it. It's crazy what you can learn by just absorbing things that they do or things that they say. Stop asking how and ask why. As far as gear goes, buy the better set of speakers that you can afford to buy. I feel like over the years, I've realized that's a pretty important one. I used to not think it was as big of a deal, but I've realized, like, because you just, like, I remember having a guy tell me years ago, you're only as good as what you can hear. And I think that is true. Like, there are people that do some pretty amazing stuff on really just like really, really, really okay speakers, and it kind of blows your mind. But like, it doesn't mean you have to go buy the most expensive speakers on the planet. But like, but I'd have different people like Jakir King. Like, I remember talking to him. He's like, I love some KRKs. You know, but he was using, I think he's still using Amphioms.
Yeah.
Like the 218s and the base 25s and all that. But he also had Proax 100s.
Yeah.
Because those just really work for him. And then he always keeps some kind of KRKs around.
Yeah.
And like, but like KRKs for me, they just never worked.
Yeah.
But that's no diss to KRK, because I have other people like Jakir that I know,
Spike
like,
Stent?
dude, they're insane. Like, and they totally work for them. But for me, they just like don't work.
Yeah.
But whatever that equivalent is, like, yeah, like that's fine. But just get like decent speakers with something like SonarWorks nowadays. Go buy SonarWorks and let that work out some problems in your room.
Did you use that in your previous setup in here?
I didn't have SonarWorks in here because I had my room dialed up pretty good.
Yeah.
And then the Dutch and Dutch just sounded really, really dope. And so I didn't do that. But on this go round, because my friend Brian's coming in, we just were talking today, and he's like, "Man, I'm gonna tune that thing up. I'm gonna get it smoking." And I'm like, "Yes,
Okay.
I'm about that. Yeah, I'm about that." Because I had a few little issues in here, but I was so comfortable with the old setup. I just had been in the room for so
You
long
know
that I
it.
just knew how to work around it. But I want to get it cleaned up, you know, that much more. So I'm really excited about that.
If I'm watching this video and I'm on the fence or I'm ready to pull the plug on buying a console,
Yeah.
what are some things to maybe consider?
Well, definitely figure out what brand you want,
Yeah,
because you're
sure.
about to have a lot of it.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to like what that, because like it's got to be more than just the idea of a console. You got to like what that is, you know. For some people, maybe they just don't care. They just want that workflow. You want to find something that you like, so narrow it down to whatever company it is that you want. And some, like, say like SSL, you can track on an SSL all day, but it's like known on the mixing side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like where like Neves are,
Tracking.
now the new Rupert Neve is different, but like the old school Neves, like they were known for tracking, right? Like over the mix side. The Neves that I know of that was known for tracking was the Focusrite, the ISA.
Interesting.
That like sounded great on mix and on tracking or whatever. But like, and then API, a lot of times I've known people to like them more for tracking and the mixing. Not to say that nobody mixes on any of them, because that's not true. People mix on all of them.
Yeah.
But you would want to know, like, if say you're tracking all the time and you're not really mixing, then I probably would, if all I was doing was tracking and I wasn't mixing, I probably wouldn't even get an SSL. I
Yeah.
would probably look for some old school Neve.
Yeah.
Or something like that, you know what I mean?
80/28.
Or API, just because some of the old Neves are so expensive. Not dropping like $200,000 on a
Come
on a
on,
console or
man.
whatever.
Let's do it.
I mean, I have looked
Let's
at those
go.
little, like, what is it, the Kelsos and stuff, like those cool little
Yeah. This
like broadcast ones and stuff. Like those are really cool. Definitely take into consideration cabling. If it comes with a patch bay or doesn't come with a patch bay, like this has, you know, the hardwired patch bay or whatever. So that's cool. And then it had two 96-point user bays already wired up with EDAC connections hanging out of the bottom. So if it didn't have those user bays, I still had my old Redco patch bays, my DB25 patch bays. So I was prepared to just like put those in there and hook those up and use those. But because it has two big user bays, that's more spots than I was currently using for my outboard stuff. I was using 3 patch bays before for everything, for Pro Tools IO,
Yeah.
for snakes, you know, from the live room, for all my outboards. So this is more than enough user base for me.
And you're doing Redco cabling.
I went through Redco for all the cabling,
Yeah.
for all the custom cabling.
Well, because it's not all just DB25.
No,
It's
and I'm
strange
also
stuff.
recycling everything that I could use for my old setup. So like my old setup was all DB25. So for the console, all the hardwired console stuff is DL. So I had DL to DB25s made.
Okay.
So then I can connect my old DB25s from there and just reuse everything. Otherwise, I could have had longer snakes made with all these different specific breakouts.
Okay.
And then I would have had this massive pile of cables to sell. And I was like, why don't I just try to use everything that I already have?
So you just basically had some shorties made, DL to DB25.
No, I didn't do
so you can-
shorties. I still did like
10
about
feet or-
20 feet
Oh, wow.
on those, so that I can like cleanly push from
Sure.
under the console, push them back to the front wall and run them nice and clean. And they're probably gonna be a little bit longer than I needed, but I also wanted to future-proof a little. Like when I was moving everything around in the room, like I took the racks and I put one here and I put one over there, and that was kind of a cool vibe. Or I tried moving the couch from here and like putting 2 racks right there, and like I just tried all kinds of stuff just to see what I thought was cool. And so I want to leave myself a little bit of room to where if I'm buying custom cables, I don't want to buy them like
Oh, right.
precisely to this like length that like, or say I'm not in this room and then I move into another room and I'm like, dang, I wish I had a foot. You know what I mean? Like I got them a little bit extra because I'd rather just like a coil a little. Dude, I am all for the clean cables, right?
Yeah.
I love that. But I also have to be real with myself and like, these are huge snakes. So it's not going to be perfectly clean.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, and I didn't like do any chambers in the floor and I'm running them all through there. I'm not doing all that. I'm going to have some coils here or there, but I was like, that's whatever. But I found this guy on Reverb that was selling a bunch of TT cables. And then I found that he had like multiple listings of like a bunch of cables. So I just like hit him up and was like, hey, would you throw them all together and can we work out a deal? And so we worked out a really good deal. I saved like a bunch of money doing that. So another piece of advice, going way back to your question from a while ago about like people just coming in, buy everything used you absolutely can. Give yourself time, do your research. Crazy deals pop up.
Yeah.
Like stupid deals pop up. And then have a little bit of money set aside, like save, be faithful to it, stop dipping in it for random things, for sneakers or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, or going out to eat, that's probably the biggest killer. And getting your food delivered, get in your car and go drive and pick up your food. You know what I mean? And so like save up. And then when that deal comes, grab it. Like I remember I bought a Neumann N147 and I wanted one of those like super bad. And I've been watching. And the market was like $1,500 for a used one to like $1,800 for like a used one or whatever. And they were like $3,200 new.
Yeah.
But the used market was like somewhere right around there. And the $1,500 was like rare. One popped up for $1,100, had just come back from Neumann, been fully serviced, had the like printout sheet from them and everything. And I was like, done. So it was like bought it on the spot because I had been saving up, like waiting for that moment. And it came in like under, you know what I mean? What I was saving for. And so it's like, and so for the whole time I've been using that mic, it's worth more than what I paid for it. And then stuff like that is crazy because sometimes all of a sudden they become super popular later and then they go up. I would say literally every single thing in this rack except for the Stam Child, the X16s, the power supply because I had to, and one of the Pultecs. Even this Motu, it was like a demo deal on Sweetwater. And then it was one of those ones where they had room to like work on the price even more. And the Manly Massive Passive, that was crazy because that was like a really good price. I bought it, the dude shipped it bad, broke it. Because of insurance, got to send it back to Manly and they put it back to factory spec. So that was like amazing. The power supply, of course, I just like had to buy it new because there is no used market for that. The X16s, yes, but through a hookup. That Audioscape Golden 58, I bought that new because they only made 300 or they're like selling 300 of them or whatever. And so I was like, I wanted one of those because I heard that and I'd been on the search for kind of like tube pre's that I was like in love with. And I think those might be the ones I'll hold on to for a while. But I also bought those knowing that they made a super limited run. And so at some point, if they were to like double in value, maybe I don't love them as much. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I could let them go. Maybe not though. I don't know. You know, I don't sell a lot, man. I'm a drummer. Yeah. You're the same way, right? Drummers do. We like hold on to stuff, man. Yeah. I tend to hold out, look for good deals, and hang on to stuff.
So you think you'll get all the cables you need to get this up and running this week?
Yeah. Dude, I got the email today that the rest of the cables shipped. The cables are coming. I can finally put it all together. I'm hoping they'll show up maybe by Friday, and then can start wiring everything up and can actually make some songs, man. So all the new Utah records.
What are you putting these speakers on? You still have your old stands?
Well, you know, I mean, Sound Anchor should just send me some. That'd be great. I was just playing. I've been thinking about getting Sound Anchors. I don't know. It's like, that's kind of the same thing. Like anybody I know that has them, they're like, I've never bought and never think about buying another set of speaker stands again in my life. I know some people that did that earlier in their career and some people that have done that later in their career. I think either place is kind of okay. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to spend $1,000 or something on monitor stands, maybe don't do that super early in your career if you don't have a lot of money for other things. Yeah. It also depends on the kind of music you're making, right? Because like when I came in, I was making like band records. So like I had friends that were doing hip hop and they could buy one nice mic, one nice preamp. So most of them would go get a U87 and an Avalon 737. Yeah. And they were gold and their vocals sounded amazing. Yeah. And then I was over here with like some 57s, a 58, a P48 or something, you know, some offshore mic with a switch on it. I had an ADK Area 51, like large diaphragm mic, some AKG 451 pencil mics, and like an Octo Pre. and a 002, you know, because I needed like a bazillion, as many channels as I could get, not a bazillion, but as many as I could get, and like to like make it happen, you know?
Well, with the sound anchors in the console, the feet like sneak right
They
under.
slide underneath, which is legit.
And they could just hang.
And you can adjust exactly to the right height. So it's probably the play.
So cool, man. I can't wait until you get it all hooked up and
you're gonna have to come back and we got.
I know.
I was messing with this one dude, Chris Bartels. We were talking and he was like, "Wow, you're gonna make like lo-fi hip hop on an SSL," and I was like, "Yeah,
yeah, bro." Great, man. Well,
like sleep music.
Thank you for enlightening me with this whole process. It's very.
Yeah, you got the bug, man.
A churning feeling in my stomach.
That's called you're already spending the money.
Hearing from someone who's completed the process.
Yeah.
And here it is.
Here it is, man.
It's sturdy.
It's crazy, dude.
It's sturdy.
There's something about, it's like physically in front of you. You can like touch the music to a degree, right? Because you can't see music. So like, yes, you can see waveforms that are created on a software. That's fine, but you can't see it. Something about the needles moving.
Yeah.
You move the fader and it changes, all that. There's something about that that's like interesting and intriguing, and like even if you don't fully understand it, there's something that like kind of like inspiring about seeing that, and you're like, whoa. Or like a tape machine, you hit play, the reels spin, you hear it go whoop, and like it's physically coming off these tapes. Or like I was saying, like at home we have a record player, and I want my kids to like go pick a record out and put it on. Or if we're playing something when people are over or in the evening, they always laugh because when we're like cleaning up in the kitchen, I always like put music on. Now they'll like do it themselves, but like I'd be like, hey, go flip the record, you know. Now they'll be like, hey, Dad, I flipped the record, you know, or whatever. But I love that like connection to this like physical object to like go take that, like spin it, put it on, like listen to the music. So yeah, there's just something about that as well. That's just like, I don't know, there's something about feeling it. Like with an instrument, you feel that. You play the drums, you feel that. Or like, man, have you ever had a piano player that like plays mostly on a keyboard and then you set them on a piano?
Yeah.
And they, first of all, their mind is blown.
Yeah.
Even if they're piano players, but they just mostly play on keyboards. And then they feel the vibrations in their fingers and they feel it in their body when they're playing it. All their dynamics get better.
Yeah.
And all their articulation like levels up. And they feel this emotional response of just the sound coming right back at them, and it's like super powerful. So it's like, to me it's like similar to that type of experience rather than just clicking on like a MIDI keyboard. And yes, it's replicating sound out of your speakers, but it's not like actually coming out of that thing, you know what I mean? Or like looking at a DAW screen. Nothing wrong with that. I will still be looking at a DAW screen.
Yeah.
Although I do remember the days where there was no monitor.
Yeah.
In between the speakers.
Also, elephant in the room is like walking into any studio and there's a big console. It's just immediate to anyone.
It's a vibe.
They see it and they go, wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, for sure.
Even his, they can see it and they go, wow.
Yeah, I saw a picture of it. I was like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool, man.
Congratulations.
Thanks, bro.
I think it's
Congrats on your new console that's coming probably in the next.
Oh no. Good God.
In the next 6 months to a year.
I would be so, it's terrifying to think about, but I would be so happy. Do you have any stuff coming out that has come out recently?
Yeah, man. So
people could check out?
We had a Utah album come out over the summer. We've got some new singles that'll be dropping soon. And then that'll turn into an EP. We've got, I'm trying to think, me and Zane dropped a Cardamom EP that came out. That's all like our like sleep stuff. That one that we did like chill, like ambient versions and then like beat versions. So that was really fun. And then Red Licorice, I had an EP come out like a month ago. I think it was about a month ago. And then me and the artist Rory, Dustin Wise, we did a whole Red Licorice and Rory EP together. So we did like one song and it was really fun. And then he was like, dude, you want to do like 5 songs? I was like, yeah, let's do 5. So we did, and it's like so fun. I'm really, really stoked about how that came out. So our next single comes out, what's today? Monday? So Friday. Our next single comes out Friday. No, next Friday.
Perfect.
Yeah. And then
this will be next Monday.
All right, cool. So yeah, our next single comes out next Friday, and then working on a EP with Logan's band Familiar.
Yep.
So produce a record with them. Super
That's
excited
cool.
about that. We've been waiting for this console to mix it on there. So I'm like super hype about that. And Logan's like, we can wait. So I was like, all right, cool, man. Some new music with Taz. He's rounding out like a whole album.
That's a lot of stuff coming out, man.
Yeah, me and Judah did a record together. So we did one song for this Netflix show, Sound of Magic, and it was super fun. And it's like cinematic, like hip hop stuff, like trap hip hop stuff.
Whoa.
And so I was like, what if we just do a record? So we did 6 songs together. That I gotta mix that as soon as I get these cables in too. Otherwise we would have been done with that too, but I had to take my room apart. So like we're super excited about that. That was really fun. It's kind of like Dark Knight / Black Panther meets like hip hop beats, you know, like kind of trap beats and whatever. Yeah, so we got that, and I feel like I'm forgetting another project called The Ocean. Me and Adam have a couple songs. Me, Adam, and Cassie have a couple songs coming out. We have one that's done, another one that's almost done. And I feel like I'm cutting somebody out, so I feel really bad.
You're forgetting our record that we haven't made
yet.
we're
going to make a record,
Yep.
I guess. So, yep.
Awesome, man. I can't think of anything else. So if anyone has any questions, I'll just leave it to them in the comments.
Hit me up, for sure, yeah.
I'll put your links, all your stuff down in the description.
Cool.
And yeah, cool. Thank you.
All right, bro.
Appreciate
Good
it.
stuff.